Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the March 6th, 2024 Community Preservation Committee meeting for the month of March. This meeting is being conducted live and by remote participation pursuant to the executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law signed by Governor Baker, taking effect March 12th, 2020, and subsequently extended through March 31st, 2025 under Governor Healy. You can find our meeting link on the town website on a posted agenda. It is meet.google.com/XWBPNVUAXC. You can also call into this meeting if you want at 405-696-0741. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and seeing as there's a flag in the room, those who can, please stand and pledge of allegiance before we get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
A question, when did we begin that tradition? We didn't used to do it, now we do.
There's an American flag in the room, Dwight. That's why I do it.
I understand that, but we've been meeting in that room for many years, and
No, we're in
we
the
also do
famous
it
room.
for society. I'm not quite sure why, but we do it. But praise the Lord.
It's just something Mark likes to
Yeah, chair's discretion. Be patient with me. You only have one more to go. And then you can do what you'd like. So I'd ask for a motion to open our meeting, please.
So moved.
I get a second from Dwight, I think, out of this. Yeah. Everything will be roll call tonight where we're hybrid. John? Linehan? Rich? Yep. Michael?
Yes.
Dwight McCarron?
Yes.
John Morton?
Yes.
Don Brady?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Chairpersons or chairman's report. The only thing I have tonight is we met with the Intergovernmental Relations on Monday, and there were 3 articles: our budget,
HSL.
Hebrew Senior Life, and Stoughton Youth Baseball, and they all passed unanimously. So just thought I'd fill the group in on that. And I'd actually like to take the treasurer's report out of order so Michael can give a brief statement, if he'd like, about the meeting on Monday.
Sure. I got a couple pages in here. What I presented, and I didn't put it here because I figured it would save the time, because what I presented to that committee and will present tomorrow night to FinCom is kind of a combination of what was presented to this committee at our last 2 meetings, the February 7th and February 22nd meeting. Just changed the order of the pages to make for a flow of a story of how we built up to the budget, as opposed to some of the stuff we looked at our last meeting, which was the budget and backwards.
Right.
So I do have a presentation.
Is it on the computer?
Should be. I sent it out to everybody yesterday, actually.
I don't doubt that you did.
I got an update on some spending for FY
I
2024,
got it.
and I want to cover a couple of the points that we made to the IGR committee last night, and we'll make to FinCom. The changes we didn't change the budget, but we did have some feedback. I had some discussion with Elizabeth Zaleski, the new director of finance, and they did agree that the numbers that we looked at had some issues with them. So I included that.
Whenever
Mark,
you're
just
ready.
put it up. Yeah, we can just skip right to page 3, Mark.
Okay.
So page 3 is the FY23 CP2 revenues that we had looked at, and the highlighted number is the number that this committee gave a little pushback, and we went back to the town and talked to them, and they actually agreed. They found a couple of journal entries or whatever in the account, and they told me that the corrected number should be about the 970K, so 970,000, which is much closer in line to the budget. We put the budget in for fiscal year 25, so 2 years later at 965. So we are right in the ballpark. They did tell me that the earnings on investment, which we also pointed out was very high at $200,000, is correct. But that's really a function of the higher interest rates that everybody's earning on savings in 2023 as a result of all the rate increases in 21 and 22 and so on. So that's good news because that piece will carry into FY 2024 because those interest rates are still out there in the market. So we should see a favorable bump in the coming year as well.
Next page.
Next page is just the, we don't need to look at it, it's what we saw before, it's just the two of them went together for the CP2. So then, page 5 is the update for the projects in progress. I took a couple off here just to try to make it a little easier to read, that they were fully spent and we're gonna be in the process of closing them out. But what I did add, Mark, show the top of the page, I wanna go
Yeah,
through the
please.
column headings.
Yep.
Thank you. So we've got it down to 21 versus 24 projects in progress. We have the project, the year it was approved, the approval amount, and then what I've broken out here is I show the year-to-date spending up through March 5th for fiscal year 2024, the life-to-date, and then I added in the encumbrances that we've seen them in the past. They show up on the report, and we'll see why in a minute. And then calculated the cash balance, the unspent amount. So if we get down to the bottom now to look at the totals, because it's not the individual projects, prior to March 5th, I had a total expenditures up through January 2nd, and it was that second dollar column, the middle of the page. It was at 152,000. We're up to 201.
201.
And we also have 344,000, two columns over, in encumbrances. So you can see there's a lot more activity going on in the encumbrances. And that means they've either issued a purchase order or a contract. They've done something to initiate a bill that's going to be
Spending.
coming back to us. In particular, we had some conversation on the railroad depot line. And when we had reached out to Paul Jaffoon, he said, well, I've spent 16,000 and I've encumbered 55,000.
Right.
He did in January. And since our cutoff on the last report was January 2nd, we just missed having those two show up. So that gets to the timing. If we do this more frequently, which we can do, we'll stay further on top of it.
And I'm glad to see this because I also received that email and it was a lot of confusion because we didn't have any information from you, our treasurer, on this. So it
Yeah,
was
and
a little bit.
it's not a delay of it hitting the system. What it was is the work was done in November. The invoice was
Right.
dated November 29th with 45 days to pay.
Yeah.
So they didn't pay it till the beginning of January.
And we as a town spend in deficit, which is why we see these lags.
No, that's not really in deficit. That's just
Well,
when you
no,
pay
we
your bill.
do though. The town, we were told the last time we went through this with Bill Rowe that,
Yeah, I don't think that's the right way to describe it, though.
well, it's the way he described
I-
it, but
The reason we
we've
didn't see
encumbered
it,
it, but we haven't seen it. Yeah, it was
they
just
didn't
missed
encumber it.
Yeah.
Theoretically, they should have encumbered it back in
Right.
November, and then we would have seen it as an encumbrance. They didn't. They just waited and paid the bill
Okay.
within the 45-day terms that they
Sure.
were granted by the vendor. But so the delay is in that process.
Okay.
So.
But I am glad to see it nonetheless.
Yeah. And so again, you still see, we were talking we talked at the last meeting that we had like $3,060,000 of unspent. We're just around 3 million because
Yeah.
we went up 50,000 in the spending when you include the encumbrances. So again, that detail is there, and I was glad to see more going on in the 24 columns, the year-to-date and the encumbrance. And then the next page is just what we've always looked at for the operating expenses. Through March 5th, we've spent $19,000 out of our $52,000 budget. Last year, we spent $30,000 for the year. So that's just running along at its normal pace.
Yeah.
On the bottom of the page, one of the things that Elizabeth had said to me is they haven't recorded all of the interest yet, which I'm a little surprised at what I'm seeing, but the budget on the interest doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like what we saw in the CP2. The total of the three lines for total CPA debt service of $704,187 is correct,
Okay.
but the line items aren't correct. The 320 was the lump sum we were going to pay off the ban on the railroad station. The 374 is a combination of principal and interest on long-term debt, and the 10182 is on the right line. That 374 should have been split in that, some of it added to the 320 and some left on the line. I showed off to the right what it should be. We'll get them to fix it.
So on the right, it's correct.
On the right is what I believe is the correct breakout, yeah. It
And
could
we
be
haven't
off a
paid the band yet?
This would suggest we have not yet paid the ban or encumbered the payment.
Would you be kind enough to keep on that?
Absolutely.
So when we get to
It's-
April, we have an answer on that. That
Yes.
was, I mean, we acted on that at town meeting specifically because we were required by law to make a principal payment.
Yeah.
That's what the ban was, and
Yeah, they were gonna pay 20, and then we basically
we
gave them the
said, we're
authorization.
gonna give you
For
200.
the whole 320.
Yeah, or whatever
But
it was.
It does
yeah,
not look
pay
like it. Now, that is one where they may have paid it, and I said this, not to get in the technical account. They may have cut a payment, so it may be sitting in a payable account as paid, and they just haven't journaled it to the right account. I don't know why they would do
I
that.
hope so.
You know, if they did a wire transfer, that could be sitting in a clearing account, need to get moved over, as opposed to cutting a check through your normal payable system. So
I don't
There may be
disagree.
a good reason for that, but we'll get those answers.
Yeah, let's try and just, it was a year ago almost.
well, but-
Yeah.
I guess there was no time frame at which they had to pay any more than the 20.
True, but we
But-
voted at town meeting specifically to
Yes.
pay the
And
whole
you would've
thing
thought
to
it would make
avoid the
sense just to do
interest. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that was,
So-
we had an opportunity and we took the opportunity.
Well, that's a great point, because
I'd hate like hell to see that it
if
hasn't
that
been
isn't
paid.
paid, then they're gonna come back and try to charge us interest.
Yeah, and the answer is no. Let the town
'cause
cover
It's not
it.
in the budget,
The other piece
so
of,
we will stay on it.
yeah, the other piece that I'd like you to be, if possible, able to stay on is the unexpended funds from the COVID relief that should have been returned to
absolutely.
us.
That's-
That's,
That,
before I'm out of here, I'd like those things.
Yeah, I wanna
I'd like
get-
to know that was complete.
and as you recall, when we look at the budget, we have the reserves for open space, historic, and community housing.
Yep.
And my contention is, there's money missing there. It may be in one of their other CPC accounts, although the way the budget was written, I think it was moved to the general fund. But yes, I've had that conversation. I will
Okay.
check. We'll get an answer to that, because
That would be helpful to know.
I'm not letting go
Well,
where I think.
it's a fair amount of money from our perspective,
It's more than you
and
think, but-
it's taxpayer money earmarked for the specific purpose of providing community benefit to the town.
Right.
So,
And we will get that.
yeah,
We-
I don't doubt you will, but thank you.
But that was it. That was just a quick update again of the CP2 and an update of what we've spent year to date in '24 is all I wanted to cover tonight.
I appreciate that, Michael.
Are there any questions?
Anybody online have any questions for Michael? No? Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I know you can hear
As
me.
a group, you were being quite quiet.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It was almost like they were frozen.
I know. That's why I asked. All right. Next item agenda is to head back to an administrator's report. Barry, do you have anything?
I don't. I just want to say that I've been following up on getting updates lined up and, basically getting things in order for this meeting. So everything that I want to talk about is coming up later in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, new business, is to authorize Mark Zemanian and Barry Castler to present articles at town meeting. I wanted to follow this up with the group because we had a conversation about what to do when it comes to town meeting, understanding John Linehan's difficult schedule because of work and Rich also, but I did speak with Brian Winter, town council, and asked him 2 questions. The first being, I'm a town representative still, but I will no longer be on the CPC. Is it appropriate or allowable for me to present these articles where, when these were recommended, I was chair? And he said yes. Michael had brought up another very interesting question, and I thought what would be a better idea. He asked me to ask town council if Barry Castler could do it. town council informed me that because Barry is our program administrator, he is in effect our department head. And the answer was yes, as long as the moderator has no issue with this, then he would be perfectly fine with it and willing to explain that. So I did speak with the moderator, and he doesn't have a problem with either of us presenting. But here is my thought to the committee, and this is what I would like to have happen tonight if the committee agrees. I would like to have this committee authorize Barry Castler to do the presentations and allow me the authorization to back him up. So if he needs assistance, I'm there with him as a town meeting rep, not as a representative of the CPC. The reason I want this is because I think it's cleaner than having me up there and people are going, oh, well, you're not on the CPC, are you, aren't you? This gives Barry an opportunity in the future to continue to do this for the CPC. So as a group, you no longer have to worry about whether or not you have a town meeting representative, which is not a requirement to be on the CPC, only to be on other boards, which you all are, or a citizens representative, as Ola Bumney and Michael are. So obviously this is open for discussion, and I'd like to hear from all of you. Barry and I have talked about this, and he is willing to do this. So thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, or just gentlemen tonight, I think. Larissa isn't with us. Bless you, John. Anybody online have any thoughts on the matter?
Well, it makes sense to me, the way you put it forth there. I mean, I have no objections, and it makes sense, so unless I hear some other reason not to do it this way, I'm for it.
I think it's a terrific idea. I think that we should do it exactly as you described.
Yeah, fine.
Don, you're good?
I'm good with it, yes.
John or Rich?
I'm good with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael,
Makes
I know you are.
perfect sense. I mean-
Yeah. Well, you and I had this
Well,
conversation.
yeah, we were
so-
talking about what we were gonna do and what would happen if someday the committee didn't have a town meeting rep.
Right.
I don't know
And
why so few of us are town meeting reps.
Because we're all
Three in this
busy, is
room,
my
that's it.
guess. I mean, people are busy.
White,
So
Mr. White, Tony?
no,
No,
it's not.
no.
No.
Huh, interesting.
As a matter of fact, it's you and John and myself. So
Because I'm a member of the planning board, that's why.
right. Yeah, and John open space. Yep.
But
So-
it came up that other employees of the town present. I said, well, Barry is an employee, maybe we should
He's
ask
an
if he
employee
can.
of the town, right?
Well, this new designation requires a pay raise, right?
We'll have to see
Well,
about.
Barbara's
That's
not
actually
in
up to your group.
designation.
So I'm not sure he's seen one of those. Dwight, did you have a comment?
If I may, I'll give some advice that's never taken, but brevity is the soul of wit. And so many of the presentations at town meeting, to my mind, go on and on and on and on. So I would say to try and focus on the meat and let the potatoes and gravy go. I mean, to get to the point, but some people have the impulse to throw in everything but the kitchen sink, which I feel waste the time of the people that are there. And so I would simply say, try to be as direct and brief as you can.
Yep. I think Barry's going to be fine with this. He's probably not going to need my help this year. It would be good to be able to be there for assistance if need be.
But I think
if-
Mark has set a good example in just the facts. Here's the thing.
Just the facts.
Here's when it was presented, here's what we voted, boom. And then you turn it over and let the proponent of the project
Right.
sell it.
Right. And Barry has to be quick by default because they only give us 10 minutes. So, but he's going to be fine. So if there's no more discussion, I'd accept a motion.
Motion
So move.
to allow.
I have a question.
Please.
Is Barry accepting this challenge?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we spoke about that, Rich. But thank you for asking
Not
him.
Part of the record.
Yeah, you know me. I don't come to here ill prepared on too many things. So I have a motion from Dwight. Was it that made the motion?
Yes?
I'll
And you'll
second
second it, Michael? Any further discussion on it? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call. Dwight?
Yes?
John Morton?
Yes,
Don Brady? John Linehan?
Yes?
Rich?
Yes.
Michael? And the chair votes yes. That's unanimous. thank you for that. I think this is going to produce a much cleaner CPC in the future. This is a good thing. So, moving on, item number 6, update on the Stoughton Depot. Barry, I know Paul Jaffoon is not with us tonight.
Yes.
He
Do
did
you
send a
have an
note to-
update?
Yeah,
I do, he did send an email, and I believe I forwarded that to everybody, but, he had said that, there was a bit of work that was done there, which we didn't know about because it hadn't hit the, well, we knew the work was done, we didn't realize it had been, billed to the account that's paid for by the Community Preservation Fund. So Michael asked him to supply some of the details, and we did get that earlier today. There were a couple of invoices for plumbing and heating, plus a proposal from DRA Services, which is the town's in-house account. That's a proposal for design work, which is something we can discuss as well.
Yeah, I thought he got back a good answer for,
Yeah.
he couldn't be here tonight, but he gave us the information and we confirmed, obviously, the whole payment process.
I mean, honestly, I'm just reading this now. I've had a busy day and did not have an opportunity to do this. I think this is a matter of, is the CPC generally okay with the path that the town is seeking to take with this? And I ask that only because we were given a very specific punch list of things that they would be providing for this building. Some have been done. Not all have. And if we're okay as a whole with the town moving forward to hire the engineer, then I'm fine with it.
Well,
But I think it behooves us to have this discussion.
yeah, I haven't had a chance to review it either. How does the work compare with what we approved?
It falls within so if I'm reading this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you probably had a better chance to read this than I did, but it appears what he's saying is, before we get ahead of ourselves with bathroom remodels, ADA upgrades, and other aesthetics, we wanted to have an engineering firm provide us with the best, most efficient, and logistical resolutions for the HVAC and window issues. Remembering in my head, we were told we'd get a bathroom. We'd have a safe environment for people to enter into. We'd secure the doors, and if we had money, repair the windows. So it's still within the scope of the article because I read the article. And it does say, and pay for any engineering costs. But we were kind of given a from the hip shooting list, and he did give us a specific list that included a bathroom, making sure the doors, were accessible ADA wise, things like that. So this isn't outside the scope of what was approved at town
Is it
meeting.
engineering for HVAC as opposed to some
Right.
of those stuff?
Right. HVAC and windows, it says. Window issues and as further stabilization measures. So we are not throwing good money after
I
bad.
think he gave us the impression that the heating system was working.
He did.
It
And
is.
it is.
They took the existing heating system and got it going
They
again.
cobbled it together
But
and got
that's
it
not a
running.
permanent solution.
But again, and I'm not against this if this is what the group decides to do. What I'm saying is we were given a list. We're going to make sure the doors can be secured easily and people have access. We're going to make sure it's ADA accessible. We're going to make sure there's a bathroom. Nothing fancy. Remember, he said, nothing fancy, but it'll be a bathroom, a functioning bathroom. If we have money, we'll repair the windows and any other minor upgrades we can make. This isn't quite that. So if all those things have been done, and he was saying, I want to use the additional for engineering, the additional funding, sure, that's within the scope of the article. This is within the scope of the article technically, but we haven't fulfilled what we were told would be done with this money
And what we voted on.
and what we voted on. So I don't know. Dwight has his hand up. Are you okay for now, John? Or
Yeah.
Dwight, go ahead.
Well, some of you have probably heard the news that the town manager apparently has written a letter to the state essentially asking for money, you correct me if I don't have this right, to make the train station a community center, which would also process,
Migrants.
Yeah.
Migrants.
Migrants.
That's correct.
So, how that, I mean, at some point, were that to happen and state money comes in, then our money would be not going in, I would assume, but that's so far down the road, who knows what'll happen, but I just thought I would throw that out there since we're talking about the railroad station.
So if I could, just for clarification purposes, the select board met last night, and in essence, what Dwight is saying is correct.
Yeah, no, I saw the
The letter stated that the town had applied for a grant and was denied that grant on a state level to rehabilitate the train station. In the letter, he said that would have been a facility I would have used to process migrants in the town of Stoughton.
What does that mean, process migrants?
That's a very good question. That was not exactly laid out in the letter, so I can only talk about what I read. He said, I am now asking the state if you can find the money, then we could more easily deal with our migrant situation.
Is that
Just
the same letter that said we are like the sixth highest?
yes,
Yeah, it was part of
it
all
is.
that.
I read it quickly.
Yes. I do want to say, and I'm going to precursor it by saying I have not watched it myself yet, but at last night's select board meeting, his statement walked that letter back a little bit and says, yeah, well, I never, meant to say that. That was incorrectly worded.
I read the same thing.
Sorry?
I read the same thing.
From last night? Yeah. So he's, and again, I can only speak to what I heard today. Haven't watched it, but I'm told that he's taking a step back on that position at this point in time. I think what's important for us is none of that is really relevant to what we did. In my opinion, it's actually only a distraction, although a relative one if the town's going to come up with $4 million to do what they need to do. I think the real question here is, we, in the spirit of good faith, said we want a bathroom, we want ADA accessibility, we want safe flooring, we want heat and electricity, and if you got anything left over, sure, fix the windows. We're happy with that. We got some of that, but if we're hiring an engineer, why do you need an engineering firm to put a bathroom in? It's really just changing out toilet, sink, making sure the plumbing's working. I'm a little torn on this. We gave the money to open the doors and provide a bathroom. And I don't feel like we're really there. But again, I'm one person on a board. It's up to all of us.
I agree with you, Mark. I was a little concerned that we had gotten all the way to December and not seen anything other than the Christmas event that they had, which was nice. They got it open for a couple of hours, and there was a crowd.
Yep.
I got there a little late, so most of the crowd was gone, but
It was a great event.
It was great to get in there and to be able to
Yep.
see and say, wow. And as I talked to them, they're like, yeah, it really didn't cost us a whole lot to get the heat. We did this, that.
Yep.
It looks like there was about $16,000 worth of work done in November.
Yep.
And now the second piece that we saw on my report was the $55,000, which is, I think, the contract for the engineering firm.
And I got a problem with
On
that.
one hand, I like that they're going for the bigger plan of what to do, because as you remember, I was very concerned with them just kind of throwing stuff in a pot
100%
without a
agreed.
plan of even what they were going to do.
Yep.
But I have the same concern with using all that money just for a plan, because then they don't have any money left to do some of the basic things that we were expecting.
That we asked for and were told would happen.
Yeah, they asked for. All we did was provide the money.
You're right. I remember specifically at the select board, there was a lot of chewing around the edges, and I says, hey, how can we help?
We want to
How
have
can
some
we help?
idea of what we're going to get for the money.
Right.
But
And you
They
did.
set out the parameters.
You did, validly state, look, it's not that I mind the 200 grand, but I want to know this is going to get done.
Yeah.
What assurances do we have that, what's going to be next? And you were really concerned that there was no direction for the building.
Yes.
Um,
that is. And I still am.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. John Morton, I'm sorry, I saw you, but I missed you.
No, that's okay. I think we've learned two lessons from this. First of all, I agree with what you've been saying, Mark. It was our intention. But the first lesson is, if we have intentions, we should make them clear in our motion and in our article. The second lesson is that if this is within the scope of the article that the town meeting approved, I'm afraid then it's up to the Board of Selectmen to do whatever they are authorized to do with the money under the motion as approved at town meetings. So we probably have to go with this. But I do agree that our intention was to make it sort of almost immediately available for use by having a bathroom and certain other things done. But I guess we weren't clear enough in the way we presented it to limit it to that at the town meeting, so we may be stuck with where we are.
So, John, with all due respect, we received a list of items that Paul Jaffoon would be doing. Okay, we took a
I think
vote
we were
based
clear.
on the list of items that Paul Jaffoon provided us. The article and motions, as you well know, John, being a lawyer, were sufficiently vague to cover any and all costs. But our intent on what this was and should have been was clear. So they're only using that as a technicality, if you ask me. And I am very unhappy about this. I bit my tongue for the last week because sometimes it's better not to say anything than to cause a problem, especially where I'm in the twilight of my CPC tenure. It's one of the reasons we're having this conversation tonight. It is, but I don't want to leave you guys with an unpalatable soup. How's that?
You just blame you afterwards. So.
You can. I'm okay with that. I really feel that this was not in the spirit. If we had a bathroom and I had some minor ADA ramp coming in, I'd be okay with this. We wouldn't even be having the conversation. Because they could certainly do what they want to do from the article in motion. The issue is we didn't get the list of things that we were told this money was specifically for. So one way or the other, this committee has to make a decision as to what direction they wish Barry to proceed with this on. And I certainly have no issue going to Mark Tisdale, who's in the middle of handling this, and saying, hey, you want to buy an architect? Fine, but give us our bathroom and everything else first. Dwight, you're going to let fund me in.
Yep.
So based on the amount of money that has not been spent yet, we have it in our power to, well, at least to ask Mark and or Paul to say, do X, not Y, because we asked for X. I don't know how they couch their concerns if they were to make the bathroom, get it going, but it wasn't properly handicapped accessible. I don't know. Is that part of what are the concerns about why they're not doing the bathroom? Did they give any reasons?
So they're first of all, in the original scope, we knew it wasn't going to be an ADA compatible bathroom. It was the replacement of fixtures to ensure, and piping if necessary, to ensure we had running water, the toilet would flush, and you could wash your hands. But we were told in no uncertain terms, you're not giving me enough to do an ADA bathroom. And he wasn't sure how the building was going to get torn apart. The bathroom was a temporary solution meant to open the doors and make this building accessible on a month-to-month basis for residents. That hasn't happened. It's been open once. They met their requirement. They opened it in December. So we had one event But I feel this very much falls far behind the list of things tasks we were given. Dwight?
I certainly, I agree with you, and we'd like to have just a bathroom that worked in there. I don't know if their rationale is that somehow, since it's not ADA compliant, that has other restrictions and other things they wanna do, but I would agree, short of that I would concur with asking, Mark or Paul and saying, to get a functioning bathroom there was the intent of CPC, and that's what we'd like ASAP.
Yep. I don't disagree, and he never told us it would be an ADA accessible bathroom. As a matter of fact, he assured us it wouldn't be, but it would function as a safe, temporary bathroom. It's just the changing of a sink, he said, toilet, making sure the floor is stable and safe to walk on, and that the plumbing works. Okay. And he says that buys us time until we can get all the rest of it figured out in the next few years. And you know it'll be 3 or 4 years before anything happens.
Yeah,
There don't seem to be many complications with, I don't know the space in the bathroom.
It's a regular bathroom. If you had a 28-inch wheelchair, which is not uncommon, you can fit it in there. Wouldn't be the most comfortable thing on earth, but you could fit it
Put a
in.
couple of bars on the walls and you put the different things on the
Yep.
sink, and there's not that much difference as far as I
No,
know.
it's sink height,
The space.
and it's grab bars.
Pull
It would be a tight space, but these newer wheelchairs, the side pops out, so you can literally roll in, get on, get off, roll out. I mean, it's not that.
If I could.
Please.
I think there's a number of concerns here. I think what I'm hearing is that the committee is concerned that we were told that we'd have some sort of bathroom, which kind of is an essential for public use.
Yes.
Which hasn't been done, and even though that hasn't been done, now they're looking forward to design something bigger and grander.
Which we
using our
haven't
money.
given money for.
So, I guess one of the important questions is, how long would in other words, it doesn't make sense to build a bathroom just to have to tear it down. But the question is, how long is this going to take?
But they're not building a bathroom, first of all. They're changing fixtures. So let's be clear. And he never said, I'm going to build you a new bathroom.
Yep.
He said, I'm going to change the fixtures so they're updated and make sure that all the plumbing works. So I don't disagree. I don't know that putting an ADA accessible bathroom in this building without going through the process of understanding the impact is a smart thing. But switching the fixtures? I mean, again, I go back to that list that we were all handed. That's my struggle
The
here.
whole point was to see the residents have an opportunity
To use it. Thank
And
you.
we agreed there had to be a bathroom.
And he
We would've
also
liked
said
two,
it would
but
be
then
the
they were like,
flooring.
that's another 50 grand. No, we're
Yeah.
not going there.
No, right,
Yeah,
We have to get enough to get it to be usable.
right.
Yeah, and just to go back to Paul's email, he says he's not aware of any future events planned at this location, but that may be a chicken and egg thing, that people aren't planning events there because they know they don't have a bathroom. I don't know.
I agree. That was a huge issue in December because I asked the person that had, done that event. I said, so is the bathroom up and running? And he says, no. I says, well, you're going to have a couple hundred people maybe from the public. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's,
And he says, well, we can look into a porta potty. I says, that's not what I don't understand. We were given a list of things. This is why we asked Paul to come in December. John Linehan, and then I got to grab Don, but
I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna say, we will have many more projects with the town in the future. I think we have to call them in here and have them explain themselves and the decisions they made relative to what we approved, relative to what they requested, and be on a very clear, level of understanding that it doesn't give them carte blanche to go off in other directions. And if they wanted to, if it was within the voted upon, town meeting warrant, they should come see us first.
It was absolutely what they are not going outside the scope of the article. That I verified that. I went back and I read it. It is clear it says, and any engineering costs or other blank blah blah relative thereto. So they're within the scope, but that language is in every single article in motion that goes out.
Yeah.
So, and it's a butt cover, as you know.
And the 200 grand, if you knew up front you were gonna spend 55 of it on engineering, didn't leave a lot of money to do the rest of the work.
And we weren't told that. We were told this
We
money is
have all these
specific for
plans.
renovations.
We had all the stuff we needed.
Right, right.
Turned out to be a 3-year-old budget, but yeah.
Yeah. Don, you had a question or a comment?
Comment. I think we're all agreed that this, in a broad sense, is within this, the scope of the article. But, I don't particularly see the harm in asking, we were presented with a hierarchy of what was gonna be done. How's that progressing? I guess what I'm saying is I don't see the harm in asking that question.
No, I agree, Don. I think it would be appropriate, as John Linehan mentioned, that we have them come to their April meeting and explain what's going on. These are the things we were told was going to happen with this money. It's why we voted this money. We didn't vote it for more plans. We voted it to actually see something happen. Can you either explain why it hasn't to date, if there are plans to do that, and if not, why not? I mean, I think the email says it before we get into renovating bathrooms, which in my opinion, what renovation? You're replacing a sink and a toilet and you're making sure the plumbing works. But that, my opinion would be we ought to have them here. John Mort, you had your hand up first, and then I'll get to you, Dwight.
Yeah, I agree with what Don Brady said. I mean, I certainly do agree that our intention was to make it immediately usable. But I also think it's within the scope of the article. Therefore, as I said, if we had been very specific in our vote, we'd have some grounds other than a moral grounds to stand on. So if they oppose it, they can go ahead, it seems to me. But I do agree with Don that there's no harm in saying we would like it to be used for those things that are required for immediate use of the building, which includes a bathroom and a couple of other things.
Yeah, it was
But I
flooring.
don't-
Yeah. Yep.
We don't have a legal basis to say you can't do it.
Well, that is a little bit sketchy. If we wanted to go there, John, go back to our vote that recommended we spend the money to pay for the items on, as many of the items on this list as could be done. They've spent $16,000. There's plenty of money.
Did we tell the town meeting that was what it was going to be, and that's what?
That's exactly what we told town meeting. But again, the article in motion includes any and all additional costs relative to the project. We never spoke about HVAC. So could you argue that that's outside of the scope? Sure. I'm not interested in arguing with the town what's within the scope or not. I'm interested in ensuring that what we voted on, which was a good list from Paul Jaffoon directly, at the direction of Joe McCrisky, a select board member, that those items be accomplished and completed, certainly as many as can be, before they start spending money on engineering. That's my opinion. It's up to the committee as a whole. Dwight, you had a comment or a question?
Just make a motion, if a motion is needed, that
Please.
we authorize, request you and Barry to pursue this line of questioning with Mark and Paul, and in the same tone we've been using to try and get them to clarify. Whether or not they'll actually show up at the meeting, that would be good, but I would vote to authorize you and Barry to pursue that issue with them as ever you can.
We shall
I
do that.
second that.
Okay.
Okay.
What does that mean if they choose to show up at the meeting?
Well, we've been requesting they come to our meeting since December.
Well,
It's March.
we can treat their future articles accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, just to go back a step, in terms of what grounds we have, this was an urgent request.
It was an urgent request.
So, and we were told that this was something that needed to be done right away, could not wait for another town meeting cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So that logically implies that what was going to be done, more likely than not, would happen within a year. Given
it
that
hasn't.
one of those items, and an important item, was a bathroom. You can certainly question them going ahead with some larger plans before that part of it was satisfied, I would think. And the other part of it is, we do have some leverage to get people in here to face us.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, that's part of the grant agreement, in this case, it's whatever the agreement was we did with the town. I forget what it's called.
MOU.
MOU, thank you.
That's okay.
And it's one of the things that we require, that you come in and give us periodic updates, not that you ignore us and only respond when we, when we hound you, you know?
And I'll be honest, I've been doing this with Barry for a couple of years now, and this is not an event. He regularly struggles to get people to respond. I don't want to create, again, a situation of animosity between this great committee and what good work we do and the town. But our program administrator, when asked a question, needs a response. And 2 months of ignoral is not a response, in my opinion. So we have a motion to authorize Barry and I to have a meeting with Mark and Paul if necessary and come to something. And I would prefer that we have them at our April meeting. I think it's appropriate. And this time it was, well, the public hearings are in motion. Okay, I understand that. Had we done this in January like we wanted
Something
to,
else.
we wouldn't have had the public
Well,
meetings in the way.
that's when we
but-
asked Paul to be here, was to
Yep.
be here for the January meeting.
But needless to say, any discussion on the motion and second to date? Hearing nothing, I'll take a vote. I'll start online by roll call. John Morton,
Yes.
Dwight McCarron,
Yes.
Don Brady,
Yes.
Ola Bumney.
Yes, but am I frozen on your end?
No, you're okay on our
We're
end.
moving.
Oh, I'm frozen.
Are we frozen on your end?
No, but I'm frozen on my end.
Oh, no, you're good. John Linehan?
Yes.
Rich Terry?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you. So,
Um,
unanimous.
I think at this point, we'll probably wait until Friday and get that out, let them respond on Monday, but we'll get the ball rolling. All right. Next item. Update on student engagement project. Ola Bumney, it was wonderful to see these come in. Congratulations, your stolidness and persistence has paid off. I love the design. I love all the designs, first of all. I think as a committee, I think the first question is, has everybody seen the designs that were sent out to us?
Yes.
Can you share it?
Yeah, everybody online saw them. So, I mean, I think we should, I want to give Ola Bumney an opportunity just to speak for a minute, seeing as how this is her first real on her own project, and then get some feelings from the members.
And
But
especially because I was stymied for over a year.
you were there and stymied, but Ola Bumney got it done. So let's give her credit where credit's due. Do you have anything you want to share with us, Ola Bumney?
I think I'm just as happy and surprised as everybody else, because just a few weeks ago, the advisor reached out to me telling me that no one had shown interest. And I'm like, okay, what do we do next? So I reached out to Barry and I let Barry know, and Barry was thinking he would contact the superintendent to try to figure out what to do next. And then next thing I know, she sends me an email with many options, and I'm just like, whoa, what happened? So that was very exciting to see, and I agree, the designs are beautiful, and yeah, we just have to pick one. And I know we're trying to figure out whether or not we want to do a scholarship or some type of monetary compensation, and there's a lot of discord there because people don't want the money to come as an unintended consequence. So yeah, so I'll be happy to hear everyone's opinion on that, and also happy to hear how we decide which one to choose as our logo.
Yeah, so I think, we'll get to the scholarship piece of it, but I really want to get everybody's opinion on the designs. I obviously have a favorite, but I'm curious as to what everybody else's. We have 3 designs. I don't know.
If I can find them and put them up, I'll do that on
Yeah,
on
would
the
you?
screen. Give me a moment.
They're in your agenda package.
Oh, you're right.
There they are.
There they are. Okay,
So they should be easy to find.
they should be. Okay, let me figure out how to do this. Hang on.
Here it is. Yep. Yeah, now if you can just shift it around a little and enlarge it. Yep.
Yeah, I can't shift it.
Okay, that's okay. So this is design number 1. Do you have the other 2?
I do. This is 4 altogether.
Yep. And then this is design number 2. Go ahead. I love the bird. This is design number 3. Yeah, you're okay. Go ahead if there's a 4th.
There is.
And this was number 4, design number 4. And as I say, all these are fantastic. I really think that every one of them was really innovative, is a good word to use. But I thought I'd get, everybody's opinion. Do you have a preference? Do you want to take a vote on this? What are your thoughts as a whole? There might be one tweak if the one I like the most gets picked, but I'll reserve that for the moment. I don't want to spoil the pot.
I preferred number 2.
Can I see this again?
Sure, here's number 1,
Here's number 2,
number 2,
number 3,
3, and
and number 4.
Okay.
So go back down to 2. That's the one that we've had an opinion first on. Any thoughts, Rich? Which one did you like the best?
2 is my choice.
Michael?
I think I like 2. When I flip
All
through
of
them-
Omni?
I think it's a tie for me between 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Dwight?
Uh-huh.
Well, look, let me look at 3 here. I like the difference with the bird there. I'm not crazy about some of the quality of some of the tough call. I like a lot of things about that, but I'm not prepared to give a preference right now. I'm thinking.
You think. How about you, John Morton?
I would go with number 2, given these choices. I don't understand number 3. What is the word there? Quality
Life.
of what?
Quality of life.
life.
It looks like light. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
Yeah, LIFE. So, John, you're more into. I like 2 because of what it is, but Don Brady.
It seems very, very colorful.
Yes, it is. The only thing, and now I could say it, I wouldn't mind seeing the lettering along the outer edges, the Stoughton Community Preservation Committee, be either edged in black or written in black.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to make it stand out a little more.
Yeah, contrast is right.
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
contrast.
I would point out that the colors of Stoughton are black and orange.
They are.
That rim should be black and orange. Where it's orange, the letter's in black. Where it's black, the letter's in orange.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
That's
Sure.
in a direction of speed.
Sorry, there's another meeting going on and there's some background noise.
There is a crowd in the room next to
There's a crowd in the room next to us, so. I mean, I think all of us, short of Dwight, hasn't fully made up his mind. You still thinking, Dwight?
Well, if there's a preference for number 2, it's certainly a solid, safe choice. So I can go with 2 if that's.
The one other comment I'll make,
Please.
on 4, what I liked on 4 was
Mm.
it mentioned the categories.
Yes.
Where
Well, this does too,
this kinda
just in a
has
different
them-
way. Yeah.
So that we know it's the categories.
It gives the
but
pictures of them,
it's
yes.
someone who doesn't know what the CPC isn't gonna make that connection. That was
I can
just,
build.
Yeah, I can barely see it.
right,
That's why I was like,
this wasn't the best, I like the circles, the one
Yeah.
and 2 better.
Go back up. to
Just
the-
for visual, it's like they were much more striking to me when I opened it up.
Yeah,
And
I think you're right. That
It
is a big
covered
part
the
of it.
categories. It covered the town. It kind of had. I love the orange and black comment.
Yep, so did I.
Just that was the one thing the only one that really had it was that number 4.
Yep. The words themselves, yes.
The categories
Yes.
themselves.
This has number 2 is
Well,
visual
isn't it kind of
representation.
written on number 3 on the paper?
Well, it's just Community Preservation Committee.
Yeah, it's
It
just
doesn't
the
tell
committee.
you
Read
the.
it very well.
It doesn't say No, I agree, Barry. This had it, and we know they're there. I'm just thinking, when someone else looks at this, are they going to make that connection?
So, I mean,
Oh, by the way, isn't preservation misspelled?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, it is. We caught that too.
um,
Unless you're looking to sever something, Dwight, yes.
you know, if they're looking for feedback, you know, maybe we say in that rim where they've got the lettering, we exchange Stoughton Community Preservation Committee for our purposes. And maybe
And then put
you could put,
community preservation committee on the sides of it.
or above or below,
Yeah.
or however they think, you know, they're looking for feedback, I believe. Isn't that right, Bumney?
Yes.
Yeah, they created them, but
Yeah.
they'll accept feedback, obviously.
No, I thought that it was an impressive
Yeah,
creativity.
it was-
I'm
it
not
was a lot of
creative
fun.
person, so.
John, you had
I
a
like
comment or question?
Yeah, two things. First, I think that if, the number 2, I would go for sure. But I would like to see the images with more contrast, because I'm not sure how that would show up on a sign. The second thing is, the Community Preservation Committee, I think the message we want to convey is improving the quality of life for our citizens. And the Community Preservation Committee signs it. But, you know, if you say historic preservation, recreation, conservation, and housing, it's not so inspiring. But if you say improving the quality of life for our citizens,
Yeah.
Community Preservation Committee, it's a more powerful message, I think.
Yeah, and that was kind of what they tried to capture in the bird one with the quality of life.
Yeah.
But I get the same struggle when I look, quality of light? That's
Yeah.
life. That's what they're trying to get at. But, yeah, no, and again, I think that shows the creativity and talent of the students that did this.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking I agree. If we were to put the 4 categories, and there's really only 3, but there is 4 categories. If we were to put those in the circle, meeting each of the 4 items that, you know, the housing, historic preservation, open space, and recreation. And then we could separate out the Stoughton Community Preservation Committee and maybe add, I would
Get to the
love
point.
to add improving the quality of life for Stoughton residents as,
Yeah, I-
as sort of a mantra, if you will.
like that.
That
And
would
again,
be really
It's
nice.
taken a little bit from all of these things and
It
melding them
is.
into one.
Yep.
which is-
But I think we like the design of 2 because it's vibrant, it stands out, it's clear. But a few tweaks would be a nice way to brighten that up and finish
Yeah.
this as a project. So improving the quality of life for our residents.
How about improving Stoughton's quality of life?
Are you okay with that, John?
Me, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Less words is probably better.
Yeah.
Improving Stoughton,
Quality of life.
Stoughton's quality of life.
Stoughton's quality of life. I'm fine with that. If this committee is okay, let's send those changes back, see if we can get them to ready for April. if possible. Will you help with the font so that it doesn't get too crazy? Give some suggestions.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's sort of talk about the next piece, which is some sort of monetary thank you for the hard work. I have no issue going before the school committee and asking if, them to accept a scholarship. I wouldn't have had an issue granting funds to the art department as a whole, but that seems to be a little bit gray
I
from the
thought
admin account.
If the kids could
Yeah.
direct those funds for the art department.
Yeah, I thought about that, but we're now talking about giving a grant from an administrative fund to the schools, and I'm not sure how that plays legally. I think a cleaner way might be a scholarship.
Yeah, right, definitely.
Now, we could, as part of that scholarship, say, spend the money on anything that assists in your furthering of your education. I think I want to focus a little bit on the child's education. But that can be a fairly broad stroke, per se.
yeah.
Meaning they could buy art supplies if that's what they needed. I don't know
Yeah.
what this child
Yeah.
needs. Or they could spend the money on school. It'd be entirely up to them. The point is, I want to give them enough latitude where they don't feel pigeonholed and it's not a value to the child. Dwight?
Well, the Historical Society has given an award through the schools for a number of years, which is just an award, the John Flynn Award, and when they get it, it's a cash, a certain amount. And it doesn't say it's a scholarship, whatever. Now, we are not an official town body, but the fact is that we give an award for the student who performs a significant contribution to the Stoughton Historical Society, and it's an award, and they get the money, they do whatever they want with it.
So Dwight,
I'm not sure.
where do you get that money, though? Is that taxpayer money or is that fundraise money?
That's money that's come to the society from a grant that John Flynn left a long time ago.
Right. We're using taxpayer funds, and that's my concern with this.
Yeah, my thought is that if we were to have hired a designer to do this, which we could have done, then we could pay that person his design fee out of the administrative account.
Yes.
I think it's similar to have an award, whether it's a scholarship or a cash grant. It's a similar type of situation. It's certainly something we can do.
Yeah, there's just something about a young person working in school along with other young people and suddenly getting paid for it that doesn't sit right with me.
Well, they did this without any knowledge that they would have payment.
Right.
So, in fairness, I want to reward, I'd love to reward all the kids. I just don't know that it would play if we gave money to the schools that for, supplies, whatever the teacher needed. I have some concerns from a financial perspective on that. I see them, yeah.
Well, the other thing that I feel like we may have complicated a bit with our prior discussion about, we've kind of melded things from all three.
I know.
So picking a single kid is probably not going to be the right idea.
Right.
Interesting.
Well, we could,
It's an interesting point.
yeah, we could give
Yeah, exactly.
3 or 4 scholarships, making one a little bit more than the other 3. We certainly aren't without funds, so I really don't think that would be a problem.
Do we know if there were any team efforts in here? Bumby, do you know? Were they all individual
sure.
efforts?
I think they were individual efforts, but I'm not sure if they were teamwork.
And-
If they work together, because the first two look a little similar.
They're almost identical.
I would
Yeah.
say the
Just the
first two
colors
are
are
from the
different.
same.
Probably
person.
from one kid
Yeah,
would
so
be
it
my
might
guess.
be 3 people here.
Yeah. I think I'd want to find out how many students participated, whether it's 3 or 4.
What?
Question?
Rich,
What's
yeah.
the age of these students that did this?
High school.
High school, yeah.
Okay. So, if we gave a monetary amount, either one to the first, second, and third place, as an example, and stipulated that this scholarship monies was to be used in a certain way,
Yeah, we could just either for the furthering of their education or for supplies needed for their
Right.
education.
Right, and so they're not, but they have to use it for those purposes.
Yes.
My class of 64 had money left over, and we decided to honor one of our fallen members who died in Vietnam. And
I remember
we had
this story.
We had specific criteria
Mm-hmm.
for that recipient.
Yeah, I think laying out the criteria should be easy. They'll understand the intent. I mean, they won't be buying Snicker bars with it, but, you know, unless that's what the kid needs to do the work, maybe. The point is, yeah, I agree. We could lay something like that out. Yeah.
It's not going
But
to-
I do think so there was some email communication that wasn't a debate, but different members mentioned different concerns. One of those concerns was if we just give them cash, not sure that gels well with what we do, and it was a valid concern, so, you know,
John's comment was right on the money.
yeah.
You don't want to do.
Well, no, I agree, but if this committee was willing to offer 3 or 4, however many children participated, we could certainly lay monetary values to that, and I'd be fine with those scholarships, and I'd be happy to go before the school committee and offer those. I would like to get a sense of what the dollar value from each of those, you know, first, second, third, honorable mention, if there is a fourth, would be.
Excuse me.
Please.
Barry made a nice comment. He said, how much would it cost us to go to a graphic arts designer?
A few $1,000, 4 or 5 would be my guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it was
confirm
4
that,
figures anyway.
Now we have a number,
Mm-hmm.
and we can use that as our rationale to split it between first, second, et cetera.
So I thought of it a little differently. I get where you're coming from. I don't really want to go chasing bids down for
I'm not asking-
a graphic
I'm not
artist,
asking
but
for a bid per se, but
no,
we
if
can call
we were to
graphic arts.
allocate, I don't know, what's, you know, if we were to say we'd be willing to spend up to $2,000 and have your first place be 5, the second place, third place $250, an honorable mention, you know, 200, or something along those lines. Let's come up with some numbers.
1,000.
Sorry?
Yeah.
If you're,
That would you'd only need 1,000 for that.
Yeah, I know we'd only need 1,000 for that.
Yeah, we said 2.
Well, up to, you know, I'm just sort of
but I thought
throwing.
you was,
No, I'm really just tossing numbers out, Dwight. I wasn't doing any real math in my head. I was just sort of bouncing different numbers. We can make the numbers whatever we want.
do we want first prize to be $1,000 or $500? It's kind of
I like.
one way to start it.
So here's what I can tell you. My daughter is an artist. She's 12. Okay, between paper, you know, inks, and charcoals, I spend about $3,000 a year on art supplies. No, she's avid. She's a hard worker. She does a lot. Stuff's not cheap, is my point. So I don't think $1,000 is out of control for first place by any means. I also know what we all know what university costs, and that's not even a dent. But that's not, we're not looking to pay for somebody's university here. We're looking to say thank you and offer them something meaningful. So just keep that in mind.
How
You know,
about $1,000 for the first place, $250 for all the runners up?
I'm fine with that. Because that puts us somewhere between 15 and 1750, you know? Yeah, Rich.
What is the anticipated size of this graphic?
It's big or small as we want it to be.
And where would we display it?
We will use this as part of our letterhead.
Okay. Okay.
Amongst other places, we make banners that go
We want to
and
put a sign on.
we put a sign
site
on a-
where we've
on a
done
job
work
site.
Brought to you by
Yep.
the Community Preservation Committee.
it's used in a lot of places.
Picking a first, second, and third place when we've taken some ideas from 2 and 3 and
I
put
know.
it into one almost complicates that a little
Well,
bit.
that's why I suggested we not
Yeah.
go 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3. but
Design pick gets
Yeah.
1,000, the other two
and-
get,
and the
or
others
3
get
get 250.
recognition for having their ideas incorporated.
Right, not ranked.
I mean, monetary recognition.
Yeah.
Or
Could I convince you to go to 500 for the other two, for the runner-ups?
Oh, there's four
Okay.
there's four
Yeah, you
drawings
could.
that we have, and I
We gotta figure out how many people there are, though.
We do.
We
We
think
do.
it's 3, I think.
Yeah, but it could be 4.
I mean, if it's multiple
It
people
would
that
strike
worked on
me
any one of
if
the
1 and
designs,
2 weren't
maybe
the
we
same
have to
person,
split.
because they're almost identical.
I think they are the same
Sketches.
person, but we'll have to find
Yeah.
yeah,
out.
but it could be a team of 2 or more people
Yeah.
working together. We don't
Yeah,
know that.
if it is, then we split it.
Yeah, we split it. If
Right.
there's 2 people that created the winning design, they each get 500, which means everybody gets 5. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And we'll come up with a grant
I'd be
agreement.
happy if I was them.
Yeah.
I never expected anything.
Yeah, John Morton,
I have a question.
you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, I think, first of all, we're making a mistake if we think that this award has to be very substantial by comparing it to what an outsider would do. There's a community service component
Right.
in this award as well.
Agreed.
And, you know, I think, and if you're going to give cash, $200 to a high school person, is a good amount of money. I think the second thing is we need to present it as, in the spirit of the Historical Commission, an award for service to the community. It is a service award, it's not a competitive bid award.
No.
And, you know, we are rewarding his or her contribution to the quality of life in citizens through conservation and so on. And last, I would say something like $200 in cash with that notion, and getting the person's permission, if there is to be a banner, to have his or her name as the artist on the banner.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Would be also part of the reward, so that they would be recognized for community service. They would receive some award, but they're not gonna be, you know, they're not gonna make a fortune on this whole thing. And we would recognize the community service component of the award, not just the value of the image.
So we could tweak the numbers in a minute, but I'd like to hear from Bumney. She's had her hand up.
Who's earning?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I'm just trying to understand how we would restrict the gift. So if we say, okay, I'll give you $200 or $500, but you can only spend it on, you have to spend it on education, for to continue for their education. How do you ensure that occurs?
So that's a great question, Bumney, and the honest answer is we don't. What I intend on doing, if we can come to an agreement tonight, is we're going to present this to the school committee. I'll go before the school committee as soon as they'll have us, and we'll have 3 or 4, depending on how many students participated, scholarships available. One for the award, and then the others, you know, a smaller amount for their participation in using their materials. Our grant agreement that will, you know, request the child sign will signify that this is for educational purposes, including materials or supplies that one might need. And I don't think we want to limit it too far beyond that. At that point, there's a pretty big trust factor. But we still as human beings have to trust one another. So, and I have every confidence that this kid will use that money for whatever he or she needs the money for. And I feel comfortable saying we can trust our students. We're raising pretty good kids here at Stoughton, so.
Yeah, that's how, we have a scholarship we do annually, and we don't.
No,
Yeah, I mean, do you use grant agreements for?
No.
no, you just write the scholarship, but we could specify what
I
we
made a
wanted.
giant check.
Yeah. I won't make a giant check. So honestly, Bunmi, we don't have a fact-checking moment, but
Okay.
I'm a little bit okay with that. I understand your
I'm
concern,
definitely
but
okay with it.
I think most of the people who receive scholarships like this use the money for what it's intended to be used
And
for.
as you said, these kids are already
Yeah.
spending this kind of money.
Yep.
This is-
Oh, they are. They're spending this and more. So,
Yeah.
You know, I have
Yeah,
every
what-
confidence.
What about making part of it pizza party for the kids in the art program?
You could. Again,
That gets complicated.
Yeah.
In school.
Well, it gets
Yeah.
complicated on
With
our
allergies
end
and all
too.
that.
Okay.
I hear you, but it is a little bit
You're
complicated.
sort of making him a hero now, too.
Well, that's how I wasn't thinking necessarily the complications, but.
Yeah, well, actually, the other thing I wanted to add to this was that when I spoke to the superintendent, Dr. Baeta, he did say, and this is regardless of whether there's a monetary award or not, that the student who is selected will be recognized at a school
Yeah.
committee meeting, and I would guess if they're a senior, probably at graduation.
So at that school committee meeting, I'd like to be able to present the scholarship to them and others to the other children who participated in this. If there's nothing further from the committee, I do have a member of the public that would like to speak. So the committee all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Eric Coleman, you have your hand raised, and I'd be happy to hear your comments or question.
Can you hear me okay?
We can,
Yes.
thank you.
Wonderful, okay. I'm kind of, the committee likes to put money in various places, that's, I guess, what you do. But I think recognition is more important than money. And what I'd like to see is a presentation in front of the town meeting, in May.
Sure.
It's designed on the screen. And perhaps the teacher of the student in attendance, and awarding the prize or the recognition for the work. Was there any mention of any awards for this thing, these designs before you were asking for submissions?
No,
No, we didn't mention it.
yeah,
No,
no, they
I
did,
think they're going beyond what's necessary. I think, and as far as, if you do give them an award, let it be. Don't have strings attached to it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree, Eric. I think we want the spirit to be for educational purposes, but
and art
they're gonna
supplies.
they're gonna do whatever they want to do with the money. We're not gonna be able to control that. We're giving it because the student participated and came up with a great design that we chose to use.
I mean, a lot of people, older people, granted, that do a lot for the town, and we don't get any prizes for it. And I don't think it's necessary, but that's my opinion.
I can get you a gold star, Eric, if that makes you feel better, my friend. No, I'm teasing. I thank you for your comments. They were really good comments, and I think that would be a very appropriate thing. I can talk with the moderator and see if we can't arrange that at the beginning, Eric.
That's a great idea.
So thank you for those comments. John Morton, you had a further comment or question?
Probably one last comment. Not everybody goes to college, and
That's right.
not everybody goes to college right after they graduate from high school.
That's right.
And if you make it a scholarship, it may sit in the puddle for a long time. I mean, I'm not sure I'm in favor of that. I sort of go with Eric's comment that there's a public service component here. We could give some kind of an award. I don't think it has to be a huge amount. And I think the recognition is what's important. And congratulations, and maybe public acclaim and permission to use the name as the artist on any banner that we use is appropriate. But when we start, the scholarship side is what bothers me. It's
Yeah.
going to be an award that he or she can take now.
Right.
or-
Oh, no, I think that is the intent. I think Barry would need to look into what legally is the difference between an award and a scholarship. Does it matter from
Well,
our end?
Well,
Yeah, as John said, not everybody goes to college.
I know.
There are plenty of ways to further your education that aren't
Absolutely.
college.
right, this could
Yep.
go for art supplies.
This could
It's
go
like
for
that,
supplies.
like
It
you
could.
said.
They could buy a computer with it if they
Right.
needed a computer. I'm sorry, but I'm okay with the. You know, it is a word, John, and I get it. The scholarship aspect solves a legal intricacy. We're not going to town meeting. We're using our administrative account, and we can legally do that to pay for services. We don't want, John had some concerns about how do you hand cash over to a kid? And I don't disagree, that could be a little bit difficult, but at the end of the day, if we call it an award or a scholarship, that goes away, and now everything's above board. The only difference is I got to go before the school committee, and I'm happy to do that. So I think this is a good thing. We just got to work these details out before we move on. So
The other thing along the lines of what Eric suggested is I can put together a press release
yeah,
and name
absolutely.
either all of the students or the student who's who's
No, I
designing.
think you have them all
and the
if we're
teacher.
giving them all something.
Especially since we're borrowing from some of their designs with our
Yeah, I agree.
suggestions.
yep.
Yep.
So that's my thought. I think what we're really down to now is the dollar factor, what we want to see for amounts. And John, no offense, but you haven't bought artistry paper lately. It's about $12 a sheet. And I watch my daughter crumple them up like they're tissues. So,
As a matter of fact, we have been buying art supplies lately, and I do understand.
oh yeah, it's quite pricey. And she loves Japanese paper, which is even more expensive. So, needless to say, final thoughts on dollar amounts. Do we want to stick with 1,000 as the top number and then work from there? Or do you want to reduce it? What do you want to do? As a committee?
I think 1,000 is adequate.
Okay. What about second, third, and if there is a fourth?
I find myself a little bit moved by what Mr. Morton said. Maybe want to lower it to 500 so that it's not all about the money. That's a gesture on our part.
It is a gesture.
It's not going to raise eyebrows at town meeting as much. And $250 for the other kids.
So that's going to be somewhere between 1,000 and 1,250 total investment.
I take clarify my statement. I meant 1,000 as our cap.
Oh, is our cap?
Cap, yeah, I
So-
like
That's
the
what I was-
1,000 as an aggregate,
Yeah,
and
I apologize.
maybe get some feedback as to the number of kids, 4 or 5, I mean,
We
presumably it's
do,
3 or 4.
yeah. But I suspect we're right. There's probably 3,
Yeah.
so we're probably looking at a cap of somewhere between 1,000 and 1,250 tops.
I think John Morton's comments about your choice of words, scholarship versus award.
I have no issue calling it whatever you
I
want.
still like scholarship and using the term loosely. I
Yeah.
But award also conveys the same thoughts without saying, okay, kid, you gotta go to college now, and the child says, I'm not ready.
No, they can spend the money immediately. There's not going to be
Yeah.
any. I agree with Eric of not putting a whole bunch of strings on it. Just the simple, we'd love to see you use this for the
Advance your
furtherance of
education.
your education.
Yeah.
Whatever that may look like, whether it's a computer or, art supplies or, hey, you know what, I'm heading off to Virginia Tech and I can use that $500 for books or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's that, again, it'll be out of our hands at that point.
Yeah.
It's not our concern, so to speak. So, are we good with 500 for the award winner and 250 each for additional contributors? And if so, can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion, 500 for the first
Top.
place and 250 for the additional
Okay. With a cap, I would say of 1,250.
cap and 1250, yeah.
I don't want to pigeonhole us, but we only received 4 drawings. And would you be willing to authorize myself and Barry to go before the school committee and have
I'll make
this?
that as part of my
Yes.
motion.
Okay, yep. And bring this to them. All right, do I have a second on that?
second.
All right, any further discussion?
I would ask, what are we going to do? We had made some suggestions as to changes. Are we going back to the artist? And with those suggestions, or are we just going to impose them?
Yeah, we're gonna go back to the teacher, not the artist, because we don't contact the child directly. We'll convey our changes through Barry, and those changes will be implemented and hopefully ready for us at our April meeting. He will, during the school committee meeting, I'll have spoken to the moderator and we'll make sure that the school committee is aware of and on board with having the presentation done at the beginning of town meeting. I think that's a great suggestion by Eric Coleman, and it furthermore shows the entire town meeting body and town, because many people watch town meeting, that, you know, once again, we're collaborating as a whole. So, Dwight?
Well, there are, you know, school and regs assemblies as well that they have for both seniors and underclassmen, which I've attended at the high school, where their peers are there. So that's another possibility of where the award could be acknowledged.
Yeah, we can work those details out, Dwight. That's a fair statement. I do like the idea of showing some recognition at the beginning of town meeting. I'm sure that the moderator will be open to something. I know he doesn't like the beginning of town meeting clogged up with a lot of stuff, but this is a good thing. So we'll work out those details and be able to come back to you with answers on all of that for our April meeting. So we have a motion and a second.
Before we go, I just want to.
Yeah, please.
Just, Bunmy, which of us would you like to get back, would you like to see get back to the teacher involved?
What do you mean?
No,
You're going to do it.
Me,
Yeah, you're
Okay.
going to do it.
okay.
Yeah, no, Bunme's done a great job, and Bunme, hopefully, I know you're not a town meeting rep, but I will keep you in the loop on this, and I'm hoping you can attend. You were the one who broke the stalemate on this, and I'd love to have you up there, you know?
Okay, okay, yeah, when would you be going?
I'll get back to you on the details,
Okay.
but it usually starts at the beginning of May, so.
Okay. All right, I'll try to see what I can.
Yeah, we'll keep you in the loop on that, and if
Okay.
it's possible, we'd love to have you there for that. All right, any further discussion?
Thank you.
Hearing none, by roll call. Bumney? This is a yes or
I
this.
vote yes.
Okay.
Yes, I vote yes.
Thank you. Dwight?
Yes.
John Morton?
Who are you calling me?
Yes, I am, for a vote.
Oh, I'm James. Mayor, I vote yes with thanks to the Bumley for following through on this.
Excellent. Don Brady?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
John, and the chair votes yes. Thank you all for bearing with us. And again, Eric, thank you for your input on that. It's always great to have people here that attend these meetings and have good input. So appreciate your time on that one. All right, next item. Where are we?
Number
Benson
8.
Road,
Benson
open
Road.
space. What do you got, John? Did you buy it?
We have,
Come on.
we have town council involved now, and they have requested that we do a title search.
Okay,
So Fran is facilitating that,
okay.
and the wheels of progress turn slowly.
Yes, they do. So that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
Who's
So
doing
we-
the title search?
Fran's doing it.
Oh,
too.
Well, Fran's getting it done, but
Yeah.
town council requested it.
Should we put you back on in April, or
Sure.
okay, put him back on in April.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Hanson School Playground, that is going to be you, Barry.
Okay.
So, just to give you a brief summary, we heard back from Joyce today. She has been out, she's quite ill. So she was not able to get back to us right away, but she came up with a very comprehensive response today, and I'll let Barry lay that out for us.
Yeah, Joyce said that it's still in the design stage. They are going to be working with some high school students who are, I assume, the same committee that originally brought
It
the
is.
project to us, but
Yep.
probably not the same students, because I think some of them have already graduated and moved on. But they're also working on, with the architect to do a drainage design. I know drainage is a small part of this project, so I'm hoping that won't take long. But in terms of, one of the questions that came up last meeting was, when is this going to start construction? And given the fact that it's got to go through a bid process, realistically, it's not going to start until next spring.
So they're anticipating construction in the spring of 2025.
Yeah.
With design starting soon. Do you mind stop the presentation?
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Let me do that.
Any comments on this item at this time? Hearing nothing, I will move on and we will continue to keep you updated. Review of the Atkinson Ave conservation restriction. You sent that to all the members.
I did. That may take a little time because I was thinking we would go through it.
Do we, I guess the first question is, has everybody had an opportunity to review it? And I don't expect any of you to be legal scholars. So I will say that this is an item, both the Atkinson Ave conservation restriction and the Glen Echo active restriction have been items we've been working very closely with Town Council Brian Winter on. We've had a series of revisions on this that have addressed certain concerns that we all had. Michael, you've attended a couple of those meetings. Rather than go through this line by line, I guess I'm asking the committee, generally speaking, did you have an issue with it first and foremost? Did you see anything you didn't like or had concerns with? If not, then I think we leave the legal stuff to the legal counsel, but that's my opinion, rather than blowing an hour, which I know it'll take
Yeah.
us
No,
to go through this.
I think, I didn't have any problems with this one.
Okay,
There was one mention in the Glen Echo one, and
we'll get to that. I not surprised, I'll put it to you that way. So, but we're gonna focus on the Atkinson Ave first. So, any members online have any concerns or comments with the Glen Echo, John Morton? I mean, with the Atkinson Ave, John Morton?
Yeah, just a quick one. The Atkinson Avenue thing back in, farther down around like paragraph 9 or something, talks about the right to use golf carts and motorized vehicles. That doesn't bother me if we're talking about use in the parking lot. But I'm afraid if that kind of language got into the easement on
We'd find
Glen
it.
I thought
Echo,
it
for
didn't allow
example, we would be in a position where we would have difficulty
Keep going up on this.
refusing motor vehicles and.
Okay, so, yeah, I hear you. That is in the prohibited acts and uses?
No, you go down into permitted uses and it's mentioned again.
Go down further. Okay, I want to see that. That's, because I thought we took that out.
Well, I found it down there, I think it's in paragraph 8 or 9, I don't know,
Right, 9 is
somewhere.
Motorized.
I saw 11 was motorized.
registered
vehicle.
passenger motors and vehicles that are non-similar, motorized sleds, vehicles, public safety, motorized vehicle person with mobility impairments.
Well, the problem with that is that it doesn't say that the motorized, the physical impairments pertains to everything before registered passenger vehicles, motorcycles, mopeds, bicycles, and so on. That language is very disturbing to me. It's okay with me in the parking lot. I don't care. But it worries me if we have that kind of language in the conservation easements on the other lands.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, and I thought we had gotten that out of there, but I do see it now, John, so.
This is on Atkinson Avenue.
This is Atkinson Ave, yeah. What we're looking to avoid in this situation, and John makes an excellent point, is we don't want ATVs or mopeds back there. So, yeah, I agree with you, John. I'd want that cleaned up, although I wouldn't have a problem permitting a motorized vehicle for a person with mobility impairments. But what we're really talking about is a power wheelchair, not an ATV. So if you could make a note of that and we can.
Well, I'm just a little
come back
confused.
to
Are we
that.
talking about Atkinson? or-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the issue again?
This
This,
is less trouble in the Atkinson Avenue thing, because the Atkinson Avenue is just 5 acres and it's a parking lot.
Right.
But it's very troubling if that is in the conservation easements for the rest of our properties.
Well, but this is strictly
This
about
this is
Atkinson.
strictly for Atkinson Ave, and I think that I do agree we have to make note that these items can be used in the parking lot, but not on the trails or
Right.
trailheads.
I don't, but I guess if somebody comes to the parking lot on a moped, that's fine. They can park it.
Right.
Yeah,
But if somebody comes to the parking lot on a moped to use it as a racetrack,
right.
I don't think it's fine.
So
And
let's
that's not-
let's poke him about that.
So just, in other words, limit it to the parking area?
Yeah, limited to the parking area itself. But I think we would have to account for people with mobility impairments.
Well,
But I don't want a car going down there because you're handicapped.
We did, this is one, when we met with them, they talked about, they have.
Yeah.
The issue isn't bringing those things into the parking lot and parking them. The issue is, it looks like they're being permitted to be used in the parking lot. You could have a racetrack, you could have a bicycle track, you could do something like that, and that's not intended.
Right.
So I think we have to be clear that, traveling into the thing with these motorized vehicles and parking them is just fine, but we're not gonna allow them to be racing mopeds in the parking lot.
Okay, and I don't think it's big enough, but I hear what you're saying. We'll talk with Attorney Winter about that for clarification purposes. But I do believe we have had conversations about this piece, and I think the intent is to allow the parking. If we were to take it out, we would not allow the parking. That's the trick to it. So maybe just simply adding in parking area would be enough. Limited to the parking area, something along those lines.
Yeah, in the first part, which was the prohibited uses, they make reference to parking. Parking area solely as parking for daytime
Right,
non-vehicular
right.
entry.
But then in the prohibited use, it kind of gives a blanket of, yeah, we can do this. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, and he talked about how that kind of closes the loop by having
yeah,
it in both places.
he did.
But yeah, run it by him again. That's-
Yeah, we'll run it by him just for
Yeah,
verification.
yeah, as Michael said, in the prohibited uses, it's, it prohibits off-road motorized vehicles.
Right, we're not allowed off-road. That is in the prohibited uses.
Right, and then they say they accept, in other words, do not include as prohibited passenger vehicles, motorcycles, mopeds, and bicycles.
Mhm.
And they're using the parking area solely as parking for.
Right.
So that's what's
That
accepted.
language should probably belong in the accepted uses.
Agreed.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, it is. I think that should fix it for you, John. I know where you're going with this.
I'm gonna add a note.
Yeah, that's fine with me. If it can be limited to parking, that's exactly what we intend.
Yep,
now on your other point, Mark, about,
That same reference.
yeah, in the, where it said mobility impaired,
That was on the, down here. In the.
in the permitted
Permitted.
usage.
yeah, I'm uncomfortable with that language, and I don't know how you define it, but somebody could say, well, I have a sore leg, that's why I'm riding my ATV,
Right.
you know.
So
the state
we've
has
got to be a little
legal-
bit careful about
Yeah, I
that.
mean, in order to get a placard on your vehicle, you know what I mean?
You have to go through a process
Yeah.
that proves you're disabled.
Right.
Correct. So again, I sort of wonder if, motorized vehicles by persons with mobility impairments, permitted by the state. Because that way, I could say, yeah, my knee hurts, so I'm riding my ATV. Yeah, okay, get out of here. It's a fair statement.
What if there's gonna be an adjective like medically approved or something along
Well,
those lines?
I would think Brian Winter would probably.
Yeah, I want to be able to focus on the placard aspect of it. If you have a legal
Right.
placard that says
Something.
you're handicapped from the state, then, and I get it, those get cheated sometimes, but for the most part, those are honest situations. So,
It's just very vague the way it's coming.
yeah, a little bit, yeah. So, and the point really is for people with mobility impairments. That was the trick to it. So, let's just verify that that makes sense.
Okay.
So I think, given that we have a couple of things that are a little finicky on the wording, I'd like to hang on a vote on this until we get that clarified from town council, just in case
Yep.
he says, well, we have an issue with this, you know?
Yep.
Or that has to be there because of that, whatever it might be.
Okay.
So let's get that on our April agenda, if you'd be kind enough.
Yep.
Other than that, was there anything else on the Atkinson Ave before I move to the public from the members? Hearing nothing. Eric, I'll recognize you. You're muted, Eric. And I forgot to ask you to state your name for the record, please.
Eric Coleman, precinct 5.
Thank you.
We're going up to 11,
Are you looking for something in particular?
yeah, the motorized vehicles, number 11.
Could you go back to that?
Wasn't it?
It was, yep.
Number 11 under
Yeah, we're getting there.
allowed uses.
Allowed
I think it was
uses.
11.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah,
there.
okay.
Yep. Here we
Here
are.
we go. I would take out motorized vehicles and substitute electric wheelchairs. Because I don't know what other motorized vehicles would be necessary or proper for use in trails. Are there any suggestions, if I may ask? Any other thing that would have a motor on it that you'd want to use in those trails? Any trail in the town?
Well, I
Dwight?
think there will come a time,
Yeah.
I think there will come a time when this handicap access for certain parts of our trails is probably gonna become more of an issue. And I don't know that I have the answers now, but there may be vehicles like, I'm just saying for the future, something like a golf cart or whatever, that we will determine in certain areas for certain people is appropriate. I don't wanna open that can of worms right now, but for the future, I've certainly thought about people who wanna go places where a wheelchair wouldn't get them, but some slightly more motorized vehicle, like a motorized golf cart would. So, for the,
Yeah.
I mean, I have
so I'm
seen.
sorry to throw that in as a wrench, just that that's a future issue. You
Yeah.
want to say, a moment, yeah, it's
Yeah, I have seen four-wheel, handicap chairs, but they are still pretty limited. Like, they're not big wheels. They are bigger than a normal, but I don't know how rugged. I mean, it's a fair point, but I think what I don't want is a registered passenger vehicle trying to go down one of these trails.
No, I think I can reconcile. I like what both of Eric, you and Dwight are both saying. I think we can reconcile this by saying electric wheelchairs are similar devices.
Okay, I'd be all right with that.
Is that okay with you, both?
Dwight, you're okay with that? Because that leaves it open enough. Eric,
yes, it
does,
does. I think in the future, we may go beyond this, but for now, I think that's fine.
yeah, Eric, does that amply answer your concern?
Maybe, but I think it's kind of open when you say
Yeah,
other like vehicles.
we'll get another crack at it in April, and if you're with us, you can make a comment.
It's a little tighter than just mobilized.
Yeah, I agree. A little bit tighter wouldn't be a bad thing. Thank you for your comments, Eric. John Morton, you had a comment?
Yeah, a quick one. This is a parking lot. This thing here should not be viewed as permission to do anything on conservation land. This is a parking lot.
Well,
I don't know. So if people are gonna arrive on a moped, a bicycle, a wheelchair, or scooter, or anything else, they're welcome, and they're gonna park it. And I'm not sure why we have to even talk about wheelchairs. They're gonna come in a van, get out in a wheelchair, they're welcome.
so John, you're right. the Atkinson Ave property was purchased primarily as use for a parking lot. However, that property was also purchased for trailheads, and it actually does and will lead into other pathed areas. So it really isn't just a parking lot. Yes, we have to account for that as our main
It's
focus,
the
but there's a lot of other pieces.
The person who signs this agreement is responsible for monitoring only the parking lot side.
Correct. Well, no, they're in charge of monitoring the 5 acres, which will include the trailheads.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole 5 acres. But not the rest of the conservation land.
No, not the other 90 acres.
Do we
Plus,
have a conservation restriction on that yet?
I don't know. I don't remember
On
the
what?
answer on the 300
90
plus acres that are there beyond
I
that.
don't think we do.
I don't think you do either, but that's
don't
not
remember.
within our purview.
Not
No.
CPC.
That's within the town's
Conservation.
purview and Conservation Commission specifically.
There were specific restrictions, I think, that I saw recently that we just got from Jim Conlon,
Yeah, our
but not a
Parking
formal
lot
conservation restriction.
takes up, what, 60 by 40 at tops? There's 5 acres plus here.
Right, and that's true, yeah.
That includes trailheads, and will obviously become, we're calling them trailheads, but they're gonna extend into the trails
Well, yeah.
and then end at the edge of the property, so we're responsible for all 5 of those acres. So I wanna make sure that, you wanna park something in the parking lot, go right ahead, just as John said. But when it comes to the trails, we have to be careful not to allow, anything there that, it's all interpretation. Somebody jams a
And
Suburban
frankly,
down there,
on the
well, it
rest of
doesn't
the
say I
5
can't do
acres,
this.
The kids might be happy to set up a jump and, trail for their trail bikes.
Maybe.
I mean, effectively, I think this will work, just like any other parking area for a conservation area. These restrictions are on paper, they may actually be on a sign if we wanna do that.
Yeah, I
But
think
effectively,
that's,
it'll work where you drive in, you get out of your car, and you walk into the conservation
of course,
area.
that's the intent of it. A conservation restriction addresses a lot of different pieces, including the entirety of that 5+ acre parcel. So, we do wanna wrap this up, but Eric will allow one more comment, please.
Okay, you talked about all kinds of vehicles arriving at this parking lot, and you park your car, that's fine, you lock your car. Are there places to lock bicycles and other, I don't know, what else you might wanna lock there? That's it.
Well, yeah, there'll be a low guardrail that you could wrap a bike chain or lock system to, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's a part of the parking lot design itself, Eric, but yes, indeed, there will be.
Okay.
If there's nothing further, let's go back to town council and we'll revisit this in April, and I think we'll have a better plan. Would you be kind enough to take this one down?
I'm sorry.
You can close this presentation, we're gonna move on. Next item is reviewing the Glen Echo Active Recreation, CR. This is, so we've been working on this one as well with town council. This was a little more complicated. Do you have it up? Is that it there?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. I know, John Linehan, you had a comment. You wanna start off?
I don't remember where it was. I didn't bring my notes.
Ah, too bad. Anybody else from the committee have any concerns about the active?
I would like to see the permitted uses, but I'd like to hear John Linehan's comment.
He can't remember, though. We're bringing it up to the permitted uses now, John, just so we have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we are. Whoop. You want to go back up a little bit? You went too far. There we go. Oh, I see now why you went too far. So you've got your parking, kiosks, signs, gates, paths, recreational activities, which is probably the piece you're most concerned about, John, or John's.
Yeah.
Pickle courts and tennis courts are on there. Basketball courts, there's basically anything that's active that doesn't include you know, doesn't include, and I'm actually seeing something now. Where the hell is office building
I
on
had
there?
the same question for Brian, and I asked him that exact question.
Yeah?
Is that all of the permitted uses, or is there more below?
Oh, there's
below.
more. There's more.
Why, yeah, why would we have all this stuff listed?
So first of all, can you just, I want to make a point to strike office
Well,
buildings.
didn't he say that, you know, if they put up a shed for the recreation department to do something?
They have concessionaire buildings.
So you think it'd be duplicative?
I think that would be, yeah.
I thought, cause I thought he
Office,
talked-
I see John Linehan 4 years from now going, what the hell is a 6-story office building here?
Well, I'm concerned that we're giving a carte blanche to have any of, or all of this stuff done.
Mm.
Well, I'm sure there's something, if, you know, we can take stuff out if you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of this. When we spoke with council, he was clear that you want to do your best not to over limit it. However, if there are certain things on here that this committee is going to
Playing
struggle
fields,
with,
tennis courts, pickleball courts, which we already discussed, basketball courts, playgrounds. I mean, we might consider a playground that was
thank you.
appropriate, but, office buildings, obviously.
We're going to lose the office building.
Concessionaire buildings, scoreboards, fencing, we can leave off. They can fence up there, but, oh, I took it as a sport fencing.
No, no, actual fencing. Although if somebody wanted to go up there and fence, I suppose
what
they
I
could.
Um,
And maybe we're misunderstanding
sidewalks,
that.
we don't, community gardens, I don't know that we want that up there.
Well, I think
Who's managing this property?
we don't know yet. We're
And who's
hoping the
going to be the third
YMCA.
That's what concerns me.
What if the YMCA did it?
I don't know who it's gonna be, and I don't wanna give them an open book.
Which is why I want office buildings. And further down, it says other buildings or structures, e.g.
Offices,
bathrooms, offices,
Well,
concessionaires.
Wait a minute, wait, but we're confusing two things. Okay, and when you say manage the property, this isn't, the third party that's going to hold the conservation restriction
Well,
does not manage the property.
Yeah,
They enforce the restriction.
the town manages the
town
property.
manages the
the
property.
town through
We don't know yet.
Well, it's the select board is the party that currently
who? Yeah,
controls the property.
I'd rather be more restrictive.
Okay.
Okay.
So I
So-
think my suggestion, if that's the case, can you give us a list of the things that you're
Yeah.
comfortable with?
Okay.
And then in April, again, we can compare that.
Yeah.
Dwight, you had your hand up?
And everybody else out
Well,
there.
the other model is.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not sure how long the list is gonna be once John gets rid of whatever he has a problem with. But we have some control, as we already did with the pickleball, as CPC likely being the people to fund whatever goes in there, that we have
Maybe.
our own secondary ability to say yes or no to a given project.
Can you?
Whether or not potentially, I mean, it's
Scroll
really a
down.
question with a long list here of possible things that could go
That
in,
was it?
as opposed to our finally okaying it. So I'm not as concerned as John is about taking out everything that I don't like, but I still reserve on my, like, let's say pickleball courts, which we said we didn't want in there. Does that also mean, though, that we're gonna take it off the list of possibilities ever? I don't know.
Well, there's two things. First, just what you said, that we are a gatekeeper here. That's only if they come through us for the funding.
Right. What if the town says, I want to put a satellite management office in there? They could, with office buildings
Well,
on there.
They're only things that are related, the language is they're related to the
I'm aware of
recreation,
that.
and they're saying only as allowable under the Community Preservation Act. So if somebody wanted to put in, you know,
building.
office buildings for the.
That's
for-
true.
for the
It does
DPW.
say-
There is,
Eligible or allowable under the CPA.
Right, so that limits it somewhat, but I understand, because I had the same exact concern about, particularly about office buildings.
All right,
I
so
have it.
if anybody wants to review the permitted usage versus the prohibited usage and give us an addended list,
yeah.
we're happy to take that. We can discuss that in our
Sure,
April
yeah.
meeting, and that'll be, you know. All right, is there anything further from the members?
Yeah, John, if you could send that to me, and
Yeah. Yeah, any
I'll
of
make the
that,
changes.
any changes you wish to have made, send directly to Barry. You can CC me and Dwight if you want, but send it to Barry primarily, and we'll see what we can do about, you know, let's review that for our next meeting. If there's nothing further from the members, I did see Eric Coleman, you had your hand up, but are you okay? You good?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
He's next up on the agenda.
So that'll go on in April, just so you have
Yep.
it. The next thing on our agenda is Glen Echo, and Eric Coleman and Matt Cashone. I don't
No,
think Matt's
was
with
not
us.
able to make it.
No?
He's sick.
So this is a closeout, Eric. We, you know, felt it was appropriate to reach out to you, you know, and see how the Glen Echo committee feels about this closeout.
Just to be clear, this is, and I didn't put it, I didn't clarify it on the agenda, this is the Glen Echo recreational uses. In other words, the funding for the facilities that were just installed, not the funding for the purchase of the property.
Right.
Okay.
So Eric,
Hello. Yeah, we've got, what, about $1,500 left unspent?
There's about $5,700 left.
$5,700.
yeah. And the reason we were looking to close this is there's really not enough money to do anything substantial there, and obviously this committee is excited about Glen Echo and continues to be excited about it, but I would think you'd need a new article if you wanted to move into phase 2 of the what you folks had hoped to do there, or you can stop. It's entirely up to you. We're just looking to sort of cross some T's and dot some I's here on closing this out, as the project itself has been completed to date.
Well, two things. One, Dwight has a question. The other thing is I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that Matt Cashone, who couldn't be here,
Yeah.
would like to use that money that's left over for the plaque that he had sent around some proofs to, but that may or may not be acceptable to the committee.
Okay, so I guess do you know what the cost of the plaque is, Barry?
Approximately the amount that we have left in the account.
Of course it is.
He got a quote, I think, for $5,800.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dwight, first question?
Well, Mike, I understand the gate up there is broken. Is that correct, Eric? The gate is still broken.
Yes, that's the latest as of today or yesterday.
So, and what the plans would be to repair it and how much that would cost would be a concern that, because basically there's no gate, you know, the wooden handle's broken off, lying beside it, so essentially there's no gate. I would like to know from someone what the plans are to repair it and how much will that cost?
So before I let Eric speak, I do want to make this committee aware that myself and Barry were approached on whether or not the remaining funds could be used to repair the gate. We felt that would have been outside the scope because it would have been a repair and not a part of the project. And we did that with the aid of town council, who happened to be there. So the long story short is we can't pay for repairs or maintenance. As much as we'd like to help, and it bothers me that the gate got broken, Matt understood that and accepted that answer. And Eric, I'll let you follow up with if you know what actually happened there.
On the gate, I don't know how it broke. It's being investigated by the police department as much as they can. And, no, it's not, it would be Recreation Department that would have to pay for this if it's not guaranteed by the company that put it in.
Right.
So that's a possibility that Matt's gonna be looking into. As far as money, using that money for the plaque is concerned, I don't think that's the best use of the money for the park, but if that's what the committee, what your CPC wants to do, then do it.
I'm a little bit torn about the plaque myself. I don't know if that meets the spirit of what we intended to do, when the committee made this decision. But Dwight, do you have a comment or a question?
Just to get this clear, you see, CPC paid for that gate, correct?
Yes.
Now that the gate is broken, because it's a repair and maintenance of something we purchased in its entirety,
Correct.
I'm trying to think of the logic of that, if that's something we should, if we purchase anything else that, and then after we purchase it, it's broken, but our funds completely paid for it, we cannot help in the repair of that. Although there must be exceptions in terms of some other things, there have to be some qualifications where we can.
No. So Dwight, for clarification purposes, the CPA, the act that we're governed by, is very specific that we can pay to renovate, we can pay to create, we can pay to install, but we cannot pay to repair or maintain. That is the responsibility of the town, and the town is aware of that. They've been aware of that for some time. So it is outside the scope of what the Community Preservation Act allows us to do by law.
Yeah, and I have to say, Dwight, I follow your logic, because it makes,
Yeah.
what you're saying makes total sense to me. When I checked, we do know that the CPA cannot cover maintenance.
Right.
So when I looked up the definition under Chapter 44B, this Community Preservation Act, right off the bat, maintenance says incidental repairs which neither material add to the value of the property nor appreciably prolong the property's life, but keep the property in a condition of fitness, efficiency, or readiness. So to
Right.
me, that would rule out what paying for, if somebody drives through the gate that we paid for originally, that would rule out us paying to replace it.
And that was exactly where we went with town council. What is he said, what's the definition? Barry actually pulled it out and he says, no, the definition's clear. That would be considered maintenance. So unfortunately, I hear you. My initial reaction to Matt is, do we have enough money to cover it? And he says, yeah, I think we do. And that's when I asked Barry to opine, and Barry says, I don't know. It sounds a little like maintenance. I poked Brian about it a little bit. He says, oh, that's maintenance. So there was no question as to what it was.
Well, before we lose the meaning of this, if for the future, I mean, I always knew that gate, we were put in, it was very breakaway gate.
Oh, yeah.
Almost by definition, it's what it was. In the future, if we are paying for something, but are not going to be able to pay for the repair of that entity,
We cannot.
it may be for a benefit to think about buying a more durable version of it, because it's a one and done with us, and if the arm breaks off, we can't pay for it, so. I would certainly.
Yeah, I hear you. A yellow coated chain would have been very durable. But the police department had requested the electronic gate because they're able to monitor it. They also requested that from us at Bird Street, and we granted that recommendation. So it is a big part of, there's only so many policemen on the road or women on the road, and they can only cover so many areas. They won't be able to cover this. So this is, in a sense, a digital arm for the police department. I don't have any issue with that. I understand it. Yeah, it's expensive, but certainly falls within the parameters of what the CPA will allow. With that said, the town knows and has always known they're on the hook for the maintenance.
Whereas in the future, I mean, the idea of the sliding heavy metal gate that slides through a frame, this also can be controlled, controlled the same way. It is simply a much more robust and expensive thing to put in.
Yeah.
Should we be asked to put gates in places in the future, and that would be something to mull over, the expensive gate that's likely not to be broken away and need repair, or the inexpensive gate, or the expensive heavy-duty, twice as expensive gate, so.
That's a great point, and I think that's something the CPA needs to remember for the future. But yeah, you're on the money on that one, Dwight.
The
Even
one
if
thing
we
I'll
paid a
say
little
about
more.
It's going to require maintenance when it's a heavy moving.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you own a few of them, don't you? Yeah.
Gary, which project are we talking about?
Sorry?
Specifically,
What, which what?
which project
Oh,
specifically?
Glen Echo.
Glen Echo.
Okay, I have a Glen Echo Recreation Facilities that has $647 left on it.
There's two, there's a supplemental that is 5,000.
I don't see that. That's
Who
what I'm
put that
saying,
in
which one's this?
Let me find it.
Eric, you have a comment or question while they're looking that up?
I have a supplemental that has $81,000.
No, there's
No,
only
that's for the-
$5,000 left in
yeah.
it. That's 104.4, let me see, 104.45 is the second one.
Okay, I'm showing that as having $81,000 left on it.
I show 5,078.07.
Which one?
What are you looking at?
104.45.
Where is it? Oh,
I mean,
there
that's,
it is.
I'd have to go back to the,
Yeah.
sorry.
$5,078.07.
I may have a more updated,
And then
Version,
both
I don't know.
accounts is
is that the
5724.
most updated thing from the town accountant?
Well, this was as of January 2nd.
Um,
It shows life-to-date spending of $155,000 against a $236,000.
Let me see if I can find it.
I mean, we'll look into it. We don't have
Yeah.
to hold up the meeting
Yeah.
for it. But I was just confused because I can't see anything that's $5,700.
Okay, I don't know.
That's why we have a treasurer.
Yeah, I'll have to find it.
Do, I
I'll
want,
look into it.
yeah, I'd like to make sure that's clean before we close this.
Yeah,
Because
that's part of the closing process.
There's
to
a
make
difference.
sure we agree on the numbers.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna ask that we postpone that and put that on to our April. Could you two please work to
Yeah.
get those details worked out?
Yeah.
Eric, go ahead, you have the floor.
I think you brought this up to see if you wanted to close the article, whatever it is,
Right,
and things that the committee hasn't met for a long time, so it's just me at the moment giving my ideas, which is what it is. I was thinking that the original plans by the architect was to have the shape of it with a picnic table in it, and that can't be done, I don't believe, with the money that's left over, both cost-wise and by what we're allowed to do. And I was also thinking of an irrigation system being put in there so that the grass, the great lawn would be preserved. So if there were a way of keeping that money in there and not going for the plaque, if you want to have a plaque, have the money come from somewhere else, then I'd favor leaving it open. But if we can't use that money for the irrigation or the pavilion, shape pavilion, then I say you can close it, in my opinion.
Well, keep in mind, Eric, we can't use the money for irrigation unless the irrigation system was part of the original appropriation. We can't
That's
just,
why, yeah. So it was not.
yeah, but the pavilion, I thought there was discussion of that all along, so that would be.
my understanding though, and I agree, and I'd love to see the pavilion, my understanding was that that was shifted to a second phase because they didn't have adequate funds. Am I wrong on that, or? Do you, yeah, I remember that conversation, I think if we're being honest, we gotta find out if it's $5,600, there's not a lot anybody could do with it anyway. So I would be in favor of closing it out if it was small. If there's actually 86,000 there, that could change.
Well, the-
Like, would that be enough to build a pavilion? I know it would if it was just a bunch of guys, but
Yeah,
this is the
let
town,
me,
so,
Michael, I don't know if you can see this. This is the page.
I mean, 200
Maybe
and
I'm
some odd
reading it.
thousand for a
I'm
couple
looking
of
at this like
fences
it's
for a dog
like
park.
The amount of money left.
I could have done that for you in a weekend.
$5,078.
But that's a different story.
$6,000 transfer.
I'm on the same page.
I know you are, Rich. It's,
And I'd go down there and help you.
do not take it as a personal affront to you because it's not meant that way. I
I
just,
wasn't across the table in a heartbeat.
yeah, you know what I mean? Dwight, did you ever,
Location in here?
I'm sorry, Eric?
Can you see what my location is here in the video?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you're all-
beautiful.
You're all wet.
I'm in my kayak.
No,
looking
that's
down the-
81,000.
You are,
That's
you are.
81,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks good there.
So how much is left?
Michael says
81,000.
81,000.
Really?
Of course, yeah.
That
Everything's
transfer,
house.
there was an original budget, something, and they moved, I don't know what the transfer was for,
I don't hear that.
but.
So we have 81,000. You're certain of that?
But it looks
Yeah.
like a transfer out, because there's a transfer F, in other words, transfer from something else. This is transfer T, in other words, transfer to.
There's sometimes they go between the two funds, operating fund and the capital fund.
Okay.
So
We'll have that conversation, but
I want to hear from Dwight, but before I do,
spending is the 154. I've used that, and I've tied that out to the CP2.
Yep.
Their reports, that's why I don't bring these reports in,
Okay.
I kind of pull totals off of them.
So-
I don't pull totals, I pull.
so my
pieces.
question is to Eric. It does appear now that the treasurer and program admin have taken a look at this. It appears that we have $81,000 left in the fund. Would you be willing to, and I think looking at what they just discussed, which none of you saw because I'm in the room, I agree, there's 81,000 left. If we close that out, Eric, does that affect things, or would you like an opportunity to get the Glen Echo Committee together to see if there's anything within the scope of the original article that you'd still like to get done for that money?
Is the pavilion within the scope of the article?
Yes.
The pavilion is within the scope of the article.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay, then I think we should leave it open, have a meeting, and get some costs on pavilions, suggestions, and see what the committee wants to do.
Okay.
So in
The-
that case, I think it should stay open.
The only, and I want to give everybody on this board and the public an opportunity to understand why this came up. This has been going on 8 years? 9 now? Are we in 9? 9 years, and we don't want to delay this any further. We're obviously, as you well know, Eric, very much in favor of seeing improvements up at Glen Echo. The public has enjoyed that area immensely, and I do not believe this committee would be offended if they had an additional article come for a second phase. So just keep that in mind when you have that discussion with Glen Echo. I'd be willing to hold this to our April meeting. Is everybody comfortable? But again, it's been like 9 years, and part of what we get criticized for is that these things stay open far too long. So that was one of the main reasons we got this before us now. I'm willing to allow you to meet with Glen Echo and determine, do we want to present a new article? Do we, what do we want to do as a committee, meaning your committee? And we'll certainly take that under advisement. But that was the practical reason this is here tonight. So just food for thought. But if you'd be kind enough to get your folks together and make a decision and come back to us, we'd appreciate that. Dwight, did you have a comment?
As a member of the committee, I concur with what Eric said. I think we need to go back and, 81,000 is more money than we thought we had. And I think that we're ready to, I assume then we're not going to move on getting rid of that money tonight. I did want to inform you though, for positive news for Glen Echo, that Jerry McDonald and I and a couple others went over and have opened a new trail from the entrance sign going right into Monk's Meadow, and that trail is now flagged and ready for use. They haven't put it on their map yet, but they shortly will. So the bottom right quarter quadrant of the Glen Echo now has a trail through it. I'm pleased to report.
Excellent.
Excellent, thank you.
And I will enjoy hiking it with my young daughters that are getting older on me, unfortunately. So we'll leave that open until April, Eric. And, you know, if you can get your committee together, come back with us. I can't speak for the committee, but we've always been generous when it comes to this. So if it's not enough, we'll close it out, present a new article.
Let's just make sure it's within the scope of the
let-
article.
Yeah, Barry did check on that, and he said the
I also
pavilion
want to
is.
check back with the accounting office why that transfer shows up the way it does,
Okay,
that threw
so
Barry
hold
off in the
off on
first
that.
place.
Yeah. So we
I
all
don't-
have a little bit of homework to do, but
Yeah,
I think you're pushing it, having us get everything ready for you by April, because we need to get
Right.
designs, costs.
oh, I
No,
agree. I think, Eric, I'm sorry. What I'm looking for from April is an answer whether or not you want to just close it out and start over, or you want to leave it open and continue the process of getting quotes. I don't expect a quote by April. I apologize if you were misled to believe that, but I just want a sense from.
I'll make it easy. Yes, I want it kept open.
All right.
Well,
Really?
you're not a committee of one though, Eric.
You're not a committee of one. Get.
You asked me, and you answered your question.
Yeah, if you don't mind just getting the whole committee, a consensus from your committee that yes, you want to continue to leave it open so you have an opportunity to get pricing. We're happy to leave it open for the moment.
we'll confirm how much money really is left, because
You have a quick
something,
opinion from the vice chairman of the committee.
I saw him. But you're still not a committee of two. So yeah, for now we're leaving it as is. We're going to verify the numbers with the town accountants or the financial director. What is she called now? Financial
Director
director.
of Finance.
Director of Finance, and we'll have it on our schedule for April, but not necessarily as a closeout, just for a continuing discussion. And if it does end up getting closed out, if that be the will of the Glen Echo Committee, then we'll put that on at a future date. So for now, it's going to continue to hang. But remember, it's on a 9-year clock. So,
Hopefully it'll be earlier in the meeting.
yep. So thank you, Eric, for being with us tonight and giving us your opinion. You're welcome to stay, obviously, but thank you for your time on this tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Fire Station 1 is also, this was an article for some renovations to Fire Station 1 quite some time ago.
Had to
We
be
got
done immediately.
that had to be done immediately, yes. We did get confirmation, and you want to pull that up. It was at the very bottom.
Yep.
And I'll quote from Paul Jaffoon, Mark Tisdale asked me to let you know the project for necessary repairs to the 30 Freeman Street Fire Station is closed. It's not a repair. We were asked for the money for renovations. So we're going to close that out tonight if anybody has any.
So they're abandoning the project?
No, they completed it.
Oh, they
completed
completed
it.
it, okay.
Yeah, this was from 2018, maybe?
2019.
This was the one where there was
2019,
leaks,
thank you.
water was
Thank
leaking
you.
on the
There's a reason I
stairways
do
and.
these
Yep,
reports.
it is a wonderful thing you do them. Can you tell us how much is left in this
It
to
says
close?
there's $111,000 left.
Yeah.
They
So-
asked for 210 and spent 99,
Mm-hmm,
and nothing's happened for a long time. and-
okay,
Can I make
So-
a motion, we
yep.
close out fire station number 1?
What's the Munis number on it, just so we can be clear?
10292.
10292?
10292.
Do I have a second on that motion? Seconded by Rich. Is there any discussion on the motion to close the 01292?
10292.
10292. which is the fire station renovations? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Dwight?
Yes.
John Morton?
Yes.
Don Brady?
Yes.
Olabumney?
Yeah.
John Linehan?
Yes.
Rich? Michael?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That's unanimous. Said article is closed. West Street Barn evaluation. So, Dwight, this was the money that we received to get the evaluation done. I believe that project is completed at this point. Do you have any objection to closing this out,
No, what's the figure there?
Michael?
There's
Or Barry?
There's $2,000 left in the account. There was
Do you-
7,500 originally authorized, 5,500 was spent, and $2,000
Okay.
is left.
There's $2,000 right now encumbered
Oh, it's
to bring
encumbered?
it down to zero, so.
What's it encumbered for?
That typically means they have some kind of, and they may have issued a contract and not spent the full amount, so they may need to close that and give us back the money.
So,
Encumbered means they haven't cut a check for it.
yeah, they haven't cut a check
Okay,
for
so-
it.
But,
Spoken for.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay,
So,
but it doesn't mean we can't get it back if they haven't truly spent
right,
it.
I would say that we close this out unless Dwight has Dwight, you have an objection, or?
Right, just that, the qualification that Michael's talking about, I don't quite understand. You're saying it's encumbered, but we can close it out?
We can close it out, they'll still pay their bills.
well,
If there's an actual PO that they owe, they might have
Yeah.
written a contract for the full amount and then only spent 5,500.
Right.
So in closing it out, we get them to relieve that encumbrance and give us back
Correct.
the
right,
$2,000.
right, can you check that out with?
Yeah.
So-
I think that could be explained by the fact that they didn't put as much time in the project as they might have originally, but said they thought they had done all they could right now. So that may explain the 5 rather than the 7,500.
Yeah,
But there's assurance from whoever's paying the bill that we have paid that company all we owe them and we're done with it. Which is, I'd be told that that's the case, and then
Is that a statement or a question?
that's a question. That, the way you see it, that indicates that we have paid that amount, and that's all we're going to have to pay to that company.
so when we close something out, any, bills that are yet to be paid, if they're out there, would be paid before the account was closed on the finance end. What Michael's saying is they have $2,000 encumbered, which is the remaining balance on it. However, if they only charged us 55 on a contract for 7,500, then and we paid them 55, then that 2,000 will come back. By closing this, all it does is trigger Michael to talk with the director of finance or Barry and say, hey, we're closing this out, pay any bills that need to be paid, and let's move on, right?
Right. They
Yes.
should go back to someone and say, do we owe this other $2,000
Correct.
on
Right.
the initial contract?
Right.
That's what the closing form, and then whoever the original applicant signs off that
Yep.
yes, and then we close it out and they give us back the $2,000.
Correct, and we
If
get
in
the
fact
money.
they owe it and they're just waiting for a bill,
Yeah,
we could close it and
Dwight,
they can
have-
just still pay it.
Dwight, do you recall if you've been asked to sign off on more than $5,000 in bills?
No, if I signed off on something, it would have been, a year ago, and I don't recall. I just had the recollection that they were only charging us at that time less than
They
we had
quoted you.
agreed.
Right.
That's all I remember.
So if we close this, all it really does is ensure that it gets tied up in a nice neat bow and ended.
But this is exactly why they need to be closed on a timely
This
basis.
is exactly why
Because
they
a year or
need
two
to be
later,
closed. Yep.
we get into
Yeah.
a lot of confusion. What's the right number? What's this?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just a
And
bad
you're
practice.
absolutely right. And to that point, that's why I really
make a
felt
motion
like
we,
closing the Glen Echo one.
Close out the West Street Barn evaluation
Sure.
project?
Yes,
Do we have a second?
second it.
Any further discussion?
I think Barry already submitted a thing to
I think so, yeah.
town.
I may have,
Yeah.
yes. But
If there's no further discussion, I'll take the roll call. Dwight?
Yes,
John Morton?
Yes,
Don Brady?
Yes.
Ola Bumney?
Yeah.
John Linehan?
Yes.
Rich? Michael?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
actually, I haven't submitted this one because I need Dwight's signature on it. So
Okay.
Well, you-
So any
you
further
prepared it.
bills
You
will
submitted
still
it.
be paid.
Dwight's gotta come live to
This
the
is,
next
yeah,
meeting.
this is all, it's gonna work out, but Michael makes a great point. It's why we need to close these in a timely fashion, so it doesn't get lost.
Yeah.
All right.
What else?
Approval of minutes is the next thing on the agenda.
Yep, we got minutes from February 7th and February 22nd. Do we have a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, by roll call, Dwight?
yes,
John Morton?
yes,
Don Brady?
Yes.
Orla Bumney?
Yeah.
John?
Yes.
Rich? Michael?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you, Barry, for your hard work with the minutes. They are always an easy one to do. Any unanticipated new business or emergency matters? Hearing none. Our next meeting is April 3rd. It will be my last. So, I thank you all for your time tonight and patience, and those who are watching, I appreciate you taking the time out of your life. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's not a hard one to get. By roll call, I'll start in the room. John Linehan.
Yes.
Rich. Michael.
Yes.
Dwight.
yes.
John Morton.
yes.
Don Brady.
Yes.
Ola Bumney.
Yeah.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you all. Have a
you all.
wonderful night.